AUD, प्रसार और विस्तार प्रभाग, Ambedkar Vishwavidyalaya, Delhi. The launch of this division marks an important moment in the institutional history of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar University, Delhi. I'm extremely happy that Professor Anu Singh Lather, Vice Chancellor AUD, is with us today, despite her extremely busy schedules. The University Registrar, Dr. Nitin Malik, who has a keen interest in the future activities of this division, has also joined us today. I'm deeply thankful to him. Professor Pamela Singla, Head of the Department of Social Work at the University of Delhi, is our special guest. Welcome, Professor Singla, to deliver a lecture on this occasion. We are proud to have 3 of our AUD alumni with us as well. Swarnima, who is joining us from Patna through the Zoom link, Niharika and Aditya, both of us are here. I thank everyone who's participating in this program, either here or through Zoom. Importance of extension activities and community engagement for a public university. The theme of today's launch event seems more relevant than ever in a world encountering the COVID-19 pandemic. As a social sciences and humanities university, how is it that we continue with our community engagement and extension activities in a COVID-resilient world where distancing norms, travel restrictions, hybrid mode of functioning, and crisis preparedness seem to and will remain in our everyday reality? It has been argued that extension activities has the potential of leading towards further democratization of education, as well as playing a catalytic role in development of various kinds. While its nature and manifestation may differ and can sometimes also remain elusive, the transformatory potential, both in content and intent, of extension activities is indisputable. The Kothari Commission report of 1964 had proposed extension as the 3rd pillar of higher education, besides teaching and research. It in fact had proposed a national adult education program that was launched by the Government of India in 1978. In 1986, the UGC had released guidelines for Center for Women's Studies, wherein research, extension, teaching, and interventionist roles within and outside of these the universities was emphasized. But much before any formal call for extension, and definitely before independence, Rabindranath Tagore had initiated the Sriniketan Rural Reconstruction Project a pioneering initiative for all future university outreach work. Reflection of this idea can be witnessed today in the Adopt a Village programs. This reconstruction had a 3-pronged but intertwined objectives: creation of self-resilience, cooperatives, and development of villages, Shurul and Sriniketan. Focus was on economic development, education, extension, health, early childhood care, transformation in lives of indigenous people, reimagining folk arts and crafts. Of course, there have been multiple other attempts. The Sevagram project of Wardha by Mahatma Gandhi, or Jamia Millia Islamia's community education called Nai Talim. While Mysore University, as early as in 1932, had established the Department of Extension and Publicity, the community development projects and the establishment of agricultural colleges all across India in the 1950s paved the way towards extension education in various institutions of higher learning post-independent India. AUD, since its inception, has been committed to the inculcation of institutional and social responsibilities among its faculty and students. Most of our courses have been designed to impart these ethical concerns. About 25% of learning in all programs is expected to be through community engagement, where issues are to be understood and not just be written about as academic papers, but also to think and contribute towards change. Through academic programs like development practice or initiatives like EHSAS, or research projects done through the Early Childhood Care Center, Center for Community Knowledge, School of Human Ecology, or Education Studies, from the initial years, communication and linkages with government schools, shelter homes or orphanages, balwaris, rural households, or wildlife sanctuaries and protected areas have been an intrinsic aspect of student-teacher life at AUD. Over the years, students and faculty from the business school, from the law and governance school, human studies, and global affairs have been involved with organizing medical camps, human rights or mental health awareness initiatives, gender inclusive safe spaces, promoting kitchen gardens, undertaking the Swachh Bharat campaign, and mapping neighborhoods with people. The most recent formation of the National Services Scheme team of AUD adds to the list of its extension activities. This newly formed outreach and extension division, while building upon the pillars in place at AUD, envisions continuous engagement with communities and citizens in order to generate constitutional ethos and reiterate the importance of social harmony, compassion, and dignity towards all through its many programs and activities. I now invite our University Vice Chancellor, who has been an important source of support towards the imagination of this division, to deliver the inaugural address. Ma'am.
Thank you, Rukmini. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you all hear me? Yes, people can hear
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So welcome to this session, and my congratulations to Professor Rukmini Sen and the team for taking this initiative. In fact, it was a long pending desire as well as the need of the AUD to have a division which looks after the social responsibility. And AUD has played a very important role in terms of extending the social responsibility through various centers in some form or the other. But formalizing a division would have given it a very formal and established kind of system where the resources can be pooled in, where people can be called at the right forum to actually implement. So therefore, see, while I come from the management background and I see the corporates and the corporations have been forced by the law of the land under the Companies Act 2013 to contribute 2% of their proceeds and the profits towards the corporate social responsibility. Coming to the higher education pillar of delivery, teaching learning essentially is automatically doing a social service. I believe so, and particularly in the public sector, when we are a public university and a government university as an institution, we work on the social cost of training our students and not towards the commercial cost. We are not like private universities. We are not like private colleges. So we're already serving the nation and serving the communities through this philosophy and this social responsibility in mind. Going back to what Mahatma Gandhi said, and I would like to speak about how his thoughts are getting translated into the education system. Though we have so many things to quote from Professor Radhakrishnan, Sarvapalli Professor Radhakrishnan, and our Prime Minister Lal Bahadur Shastri, who said such relevant things relating to what kind of role the universities can play in terms of extending the help beyond the curriculum and learning and the degree programs. Gandhiji believed that universities are the institutions to inspire and provide direction to the society towards futuristic societies. And everything, the change which emanates in any society comes essentially from the deliberations which happen at the university level. And an educated nation and the responsibility which the universities take up in terms of preparing the future plans for the nation becomes the hallmark of the society itself. So while today's topic is the importance of the university systems in terms of imparting this responsibility, I think we have the scholars who are present here who are going to discuss in details. Gandhiji also wanted to create small, self-reliant communities with its ideal of citizens being industrious, self-reliant, self-respecting, and skilled at the same time. And while that skilling had to happen, probably we have taken so many years in realizing this dream, and the systems had to be in place in order to realize this dream. The cooperative philosophy of Gandhiji, which believed that everything should be done in a cooperative manner, any institution or even for that matter, the commercial corporations, firms and companies are the trust. And this is the philosophy they should all believe in, that every commercial firm is also a trust and the members are the trustees who need to give back to society. And this comes as a philosophy even for higher education institutions for all of us to follow. The collective wisdom, the tacit knowledge and the indigenous knowledge which lies with the people who have not got the opportunity to study in the formal system has not been tapped in our education system at all. We have neglected it thoroughly, probably not neglected it thoroughly. We have not understood the importance and the relevance of that indigenous knowledge and the collective wisdom of people. A friend of mine who happens to be the vice chancellor of a tribal university, he shared with me on many occasions that the medicinal wisdom of the tribals is so immense, even for a small pain in the back, which we go for physiotherapy and other kind of medical advice. There were some few things which the tribals recommend to be done at night. There are few things to be done at night, which includes some medicinal herbal plants which need to be put as a smoke in the room. And those are the herbal plants easily available around the communities where they reside in. So we have not been able to appreciate the long experience of people experimenting with that kind of tacit knowledge which lies with us at that level. And also the underprivileged section of society, they carry the craft and skill and potential to excel, but unfortunately the platforms are not there. And the school dropout rate, the college dropout rate, and also the pressure to support the families finally and picking up a job at a relevant time, because the aging also takes on you. It has left many people not to realize their potential, especially from the underprivileged section of society. There has been a lot of debate on the edifice and orifice of the education system. And while we address to the edifice part, we do create a lot of systems. But creating the orifice part, orifice would be the leakage which happens in the education system, we have not been able to address to all of that. So we believe that with the creation of this division in our university, we'll be able to address to all this. University will go in for the neighborhood network programs. We are going to adopt some of the villages, and I leave it to the choice of the director to pick up as many villages as possible she can handle. To begin with, I think 5 villages should be the minimum. But the numbers can go up with the resources. Do not worry about the resources from our side. We're going to provide all that to you. The student engagement, faculty engagement, staff engagement is also essential in these activities. I would not want only the students to be engaged in these activities. Involvement of the faculty and enthusiasts of the university, like Alka is mostly very enthusiastic about most of the work which is being done. So Alka must also associate with these activities, right? So we need people who are enthusiastic to be involved in this initiative. We want people who are passionate about it to be involved, because it is a kind of a moral bearing on us, and the emotional side of it, the sentimental side of it is more important. As she rightly pointed out, that we have a school of, we recently had the Center for Skill Development. Then we have AIC, AUDF, which is Atal Incubation Center. ACII already exists here. School of Management, School of Vocational Studies, all put together should come up with a concept paper of how each school, each center is going to contribute in terms of how we are going to plan for our villages, because each village would be unique in nature, and what kind of area should be focused on should also be discussed. I had few things in mind. For example, looking at the profile of the villages which are nearby, and also talking to some officials, we found that the literacy, which is legal in nature, legal literacy to our women folk, legal literacy and legal advice to the underprivileged section, which can come free of cost to them, since we have a school of law here, and legal clinics can be opened in these villages, and they can be provided all the help. And for women, of course, we know that the kind of help they would be needing. The entrepreneurship side, which we've been talking in the higher education system, I did one project under TIFAC with DST, that was long time back, and it related to the innovators of India. And one of the innovators had innovated a machine which cuts the grass. And while cutting the grass, he cut his own hand. And there was no mechanism to stop, and his hand got cut. So he picked up his hand and went to the hospital, and it got fixed up. So he, was very touched by this incident. So he went to the medical experts and wanted to know that how, and also the engineers. He went to IIT Delhi, and he consulted some of the engineers to find out if that machine can be created in a way where it automatically stops when something other than the grass is put into that alley from where the grass passes through. And with the guidance coming from the group of people from the IIT, he created that machine. And I was the one who helped him in commercializing that product. So this kind of intervention, which goes a long way. The guy now is a celebrity in Uttar Pradesh, because his product also sells, and then it is also serving the society at large. So in terms of entrepreneurship, if you look at that, you will find people in the villages and in the underprivileged section are very, very talented. The pool of talent which is available with them is immense. We only need to tap them. give them the guidance, give them the proper platform to actually connect to the university system here, and that will go a long way. Another important thing is the medical camps, which we can think of organizing beyond blood donation camps, which I thought blood donation camps, of course, have been the social responsibility and part of NSS activities in universities. But going beyond that, providing the medical help, and there would be a number of doctors who would be willing to come forward to give that kind of medical care, and even medicines can be provided free of cost to all of them. Though we have Mohalla clinics which are doing wonderful job in Delhi, but reaching to the household where people do not have access even to the medicine, which are expensive. So we can develop some kind of mechanism through the donations and contributions, and we'll reach out to the corporations to help us out in doing that. And we can have that section also where people can be helped. Rukmini and myself, we also had discussion on, we thought we'll have a bus which is going to be a bus for the academic and entrepreneurial initiatives. And then all of you who are sitting here, I'm sure you are the enthusiast group of people who are going to be associated, which will go to the villages and give all kind of guidance to them. We'll organize the workshops with them. We'll organize the skill center activities with them. And then this is a process where they will start coming to our skill center here, which is already been created here. So they can come here, and that is again extension part and continuation of extension part, which is going to happen. Maybe some of them get into the formalization to the extent of certification, diplomas or whatever. So that's how all the divisions and the centers which I discussed earlier will work in tandem with each other with a lot of synergy. And I would request Rukmini to call a meeting of all these people, have a concept paper, which we shall present it before the finance committee as well as before the board of management, so that we can get it approved as a initiative, and also get funding for the same and budget it in our annual budget issues. So there would be many things, I think, which is going to come on the way. One other important thing which probably many universities are not doing, which I feel would have given impetus, far more impetus to all this, would be in terms of community service through media presence. Reaching out to people is important. While AUD does something, it only remains within a small group of people. It doesn't get its recognition and appreciation from everyone. So we would want that a media group can be created where media presence, and this can be through the media groups to come forward and help us out in giving some visibility about these people, so that more number of such people can join our initiative. That's how I look at our sector in future. With a wonderful beginning today, I congratulate the team and the director who herself is an enthusiast. So with all the best to you, Rukmini, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor Lather, for that words of encouragement, and also showing us a direction, given that in a formal form, this is the first time that the Outreach and Extension Division has been instituted at AUD. This vision and direction to the future is absolutely valuable. Thank you very much for those words. Our special lecture today will be by Professor Pamela Singla, Head Department of Social Work, University of Delhi. I shouldn't be actually reading out her long bio note that is there on the Delhi University website, but at the same point of time, I would really wish to say a few things of relevance for definitely today's purposes. Professor Singla has been attached to the Department of Social Work, DU, since 1993, and she has the honor of being the international consultant for Department of Social Work, Samarkand State University, Uzbekistan, since 2019. She is a member of the expert panel and study group constituted by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor to study women's safety in Delhi. This was in 2017-18. She was also a member of the task force on women's safety in Delhi, constituted by the Honorable Lieutenant Governor under the chairmanship of the Secretary Home GNCT 2018 onwards. Some of her recent research projects are the following. I'll just say two of them. One is Cloth, Disaster and Livelihood, a study of people's participation through Gunj, which was sponsored by the research unit of University of Delhi. And the second was the impact of natural disasters on the lives of local people with a gender focus, a case study of Jammu and Kashmir. This also was sponsored by the University of Delhi. And another project, which was sponsored by the Ministry of Women and Child Development, was titled Rapid Evaluation of the Ujjwala Scheme in states of Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Maharashtra. Her publication list is enormous. I will just mention two of her books. One, a 2007 publication by Rawat, Women's Participation in Panchayati Raj, Nature and Effectiveness. Second, Cloth, Disaster and Livelihood, an indigenous model of people's participation. We are extremely grateful that Professor Singla has accepted our invitation today. As a backstory, I would definitely want to say that when I was discussing with Dr. Nitin Malik about, having Professor Singla here, he of course very fondly remembered having been your colleague at the University of Delhi earlier. Thank you very much, ma'am, and over to you for your special lecture.
Thank you very much, and a very good afternoon to everyone present here today. Professor Anu Singh Ladha, the Vice Chancellor, Ambedkar University. Then, of course, Dr. Nitin Malik, the Registrar of the University. Then Dr. Rukmini Sen, other faculty members who are present here, and I think some students also would be there, so I also a very good afternoon to them too. So it's a great pleasure for me to deliver this special lecture at the university on the launch of the Outreach and Extension Division of the Ambedkar University. I in fact congratulate the Vice Chancellor, her team and the entire faculty for starting various initiatives, as I could see as when Professor Ladha was detailing out that list, that a lot has been done in the area of community outreach program. And more than that, a lot is also being planned. I think the vision, the direction is immense. And what has just been said, the community service through media presence, I think that is a must and is going to take us a long way. So heartiest congratulations on all your initiatives. So I have titled my talk as Extension of the Outreach and Public Universities, the Case for Community University Engagement, on the lines of the theme of today. And my talk of 20 minutes I broadly categorized into some few introductory lines on the nature of universities, then community university engagement, the University of Delhi's initiatives in this regard, and initiatives of the Department of Social Work on its outreach programs. And as I said, I think a lot has already been done by Ambedkar University. So some of these points are overlapping, which I'm going to just not speak about, but few points which I think in the 20 minutes that have been given to me. So as I read this book, just few days back, I was able to lay my hands on Robert G. Goheen's book on the human nature of university, which he wrote in 1969. And it was of immense, surprise and pleasure also to see that the role of universities as centers of teaching and learning was seen at that point of time, that is in 1969, and still continues to be the same with some added annexures. So he says that universities do not work for profit. They do not seek victories. Their production is not measurable. Its targets are enrichment of minds and lives of its students, the advancement of knowledge, the increase of understanding among men, he doesn't say women, among men, and the unending search for truth. So I see that the same continues to hold true even today, as the role of universities as centers of teaching, learning, and research is getting to be more pervasive. And in recent decades, the universities have assumed greater importance in light of its role of producing knowledge for societal development and sustainability. However, in the 21st century, these institutions of higher education no longer only hold the exclusive agenda for discovery and dissemination of knowledge, but one finds three elements there: teaching, as we said earlier, research, and engagement. So engagement is what we are talking about for today's lecture and of course this entire event. Engagement, if one goes through the literature, variously called as extension, the way we know it, outreach programs or public services, is getting identified as essential to the public universities' mission. And as, if we can say, social responsibility of the universities, as has also been said by the Vice Chancellor, social responsibility of the universities. And out of these three elements of the universities, engagement is valued equally with teaching and research and integrated with them. So the point is that it's not something separate, but it's an integral part of what we've been doing, that is teaching, learning, and research. So coming to the university, community university engagement, this CUE initiatives, as we know, help institutes of higher education to connect with themselves and the society, and they can be at the local, regional, and national levels. And the whole idea is to co-create the knowledge. I think that's something very pertinent, that it's not just the classrooms, or not talking about in vacuum. That's very important, that we co-create the knowledge which is beneficial to the society. Public service, as we call it. So it's very important that this has to be beneficial to the society at large. And quoting UNESCO, I found this pertinent. Quoting UNESCO, the engagement concept is still a new idea in India. And this is in 2015. They say that the engagement concept is still a new idea in India, with most universities still stuck up. Yeah. With most universities still stuck up with the age-old extension activities, which view engagement from charity and extracurricular point of view. It is difficult to make a case for the community university engagement from the normal outreach extension functions to a more participative approach. I think the whole idea gets to be that it's not charity or it's not philanthropy, but there's a paradigm shift from that to a more participative approach that is committed to the creation and sharing of knowledge. And I think this is the participative approach, where we actually go by the felt needs of the community. We design our programs as per the needs of the community and not per our own understanding. So I think the statement by UNESCO gets to be pertinent. And if we just do a quick review of the available literature, as envisioned by Kellogg Commission. Yeah, so as envisioned by the Kellogg Commission, the CUE, that's a community university engagement, involves a partnership between the university and the society, and basically certain goals are identified, and basically to address the societal problems. It implies a sharing of expertise and resources in order to serve the society in a more effective manner. And it goes beyond the traditional approach that we've just said. So engagement provides an opportunity for all, as has also just been said by the Vice Chancellor, she said, I need to go beyond the students. So anyway, the engagement provides an opportunity for all. That is for the faculty, for the staff, for the students and the public to learn together in seeking solutions to the real problems. That is the problems that have been felt by the community. We address them and not the problems as we would like to see them. So in the Indian context, we have the RWAs, the non-government organizations and other civil society organizations, which get to be important stakeholders here. And if we look by, as is while reading my biodata, Gunj, the way Gunj works in partnership with the NGOs, which are placed in all over the country. So they go deep into the interior of the country with the help of these NGOs to actually identify the problem of the community and give cloth as a parallel currency for these efforts. So the point is that this community engagement that we're talking about will not be an option. It might be an option right now, but it will cease to be an option and it will become a defining characteristic of the universities of tomorrow. And this is going to take the CUE, the community university engagement, can take various forms. It could be linking research with the community knowledge, because when I say linking research with the community knowledge, this whole talk about indigenous knowledge, this whole talk about Indianization, and basically I'll say indigenous, getting to know the indigenous knowledge, getting to know the narratives of the people for whom we are working, that gets to be very important. So the CUE would take, it could be in the form of linking research with community knowledge, knowledge sharing with the community, or it could be linking learning with community service. It could be in various forms, and that needs to be identified, that needs to be realized. And there are 4 audiences in this, as has been said: educational institutions, number 1, the faculty, which is a part of the educational institution, the student, and of course the communities. And an analysis of the experiences from India suggests that several innovative forms of such an engagement between the university and the community has already begun taking place in different universities across the country. And it's also important for us to know that these have been largely individual efforts from members of the institutions and support from the certain civil society actors. Coming to the next part of my talk, that is the University of Delhi's community engagements. As most of us would know, that the University of Delhi has a strong presence in its community engagements, or we can say the extension of the outreach activities. And most of these initiatives are taken at the level of the departments and colleges. So in several departments, like Department of Social Work, that's my department, the Law Center, Department of Environmental Studies, Department of Adult Education, and centers like the Cluster Innovation Center, the academic curriculum here goes alongside the outreach activities, or what we say the community engagement, and basically oriented towards working with the diverse, the marginalized groups, finding innovative solutions to the practical problems and responding basically to the real life issues of these individuals and the communities that we propose to work with. For instance, the Faculty of Law conducts mood centers, legal aid cells for citizens who cannot afford professional legal services. They organize legal awareness drive to create awareness on legal rights and legal aid scheme. If one goes through their website, one will find many details with regard to the march on legal awareness drives, the legal awareness programs, drug de-addiction, and also their faculty members are part of the national initiatives too. And departments like adult education and faculties like Faculty of Management Studies, I quote Management Studies because the Vice Chancellor, as she said, that she's from Management Studies, so she would be of course aware that the Faculty of Management Studies conducts regular collection drives. It could be in the form of collection of funds or other items, and through innovative means to provide support to these needy and marginalized groups. Apart from all these, there are, of course, many activities have been mentioned by earlier Vice Chancellor and another speaker. So there are activities of tree plantation and blood donation camps and cleanliness drives and so on. So the University of Delhi, I'd like to make a mention of this, also funds innovation projects in various colleges. And basically these projects are targeted towards finding solutions to various problems and earlier, these were showcased in an annual event called Antardhwani, and it was quite popular. And it actually gave a lot of insight into the kind of initiatives that were being taken by colleges to deal or to address the problems of the in the communities. The University of Delhi also has an elementary school, and this is within the university premises at Maurice Nagar, and it's open to everyone, though it's available mostly by the non-teaching staff. And the social work students who are placed there, they basically facilitate the students in learning and by adopting newer methods of teaching, ensuring well-being of children and the families, and many more things. And but recently, I get to know that because of the pandemic, it's not been functioning regularly like other schools. Besides this, in accordance with the recommendations made by the MHRD in 2015, the university is an active member of the national campaign of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan and Community Development Cells, where, as was just being proposed, one adopts 5 villages, and various kinds of initiatives are taken in those 5 villages. But one thing I like to say that while one adopts these 5 villages and takes initiatives, it's very important that we actually take those initiatives. Because recently, this is just off the record, recently I got the RTI saying that the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan board is there, but no development activities have been taken. So please justify. We just Department of Social Work, I mean, directly had nothing to do with it, but it came directly to me. The point I'm trying to make is that one has to be careful when one is taking these community outreach programs to ensure that if we are planning something, it actually goes down to the community, to the masses, because there could be various forms of RTI where they would like to know why things are not in place. Then, not to miss one of our first initiatives in this direction, the National Service Scheme, which of course was students initiated in the field, but it's also getting participative in nature with involvement of the faculty. So basically to say, through this I'm basically trying to say that the University of Delhi strongly promotes social and community outreach as an important part of its institutional mandate, and it supports its departments to extend themselves beyond the classrooms and initiate meaningful initiatives in their neighborhood and the society at large. Coming to the initiatives taken by the Department of Social Work by way of its extension activities and community engagement, I'd like to say that the Department of Social Work, University of Delhi, has a long tradition of the linkages with the local community through its fieldwork program. Fieldwork gets to be integral and very important part of our curriculum, of our discipline, and through the fieldwork program, the department gets involved with the community on various by way of various initiatives, but it's done in various phases by way of course understanding the need of the community, then designing accordingly interventions, monitoring and evaluation, and looking at the outcomes. So when I say fieldwork, it has various components through which the students get involved in the with the community. And our students, just to inform that they go to the field twice a week. This comes under the concurrent fieldwork, and through this they engage with the community which has been assigned to them for the entire year, and this is done under the supervision of a faculty. And then apart from this, there are rural camps to which the students go to, and then there are block placements. The point is that all of these are ways which exposes them to the social realities, which is an essential component of our curriculum, and which is the talk of the extension, which is the essence of the extension or the community engagement that we're talking about. So the point is that this continuous interaction with the field alongside the classes. So we have 2 days field work, 4 days classes. So this continuous interaction of the students in the field alongside the classes helps them to, number one, apply the knowledge that they're learning on a regular basis in dealing with real life problems. Because the whole idea is doing with knowledge and not going uninformed. So apply knowledge in dealing with real life problems and acquire new skills for effectively working with people. For instance, some of them have been mentioned by the Vice Chancellor. For instance, building compassion, develop self-confidence, might seem very basic, but I think when you're working in the field, this gets to be an important skill. Ability to empathize, then critically analyze the situation, And of course, value narratives. This I feel is very important, and this also appears as an important component in the ethical considerations, the ethics document of the Department of Social Work. That is, that one needs to value the narratives of all sections of the society, including those of women alongside men. There's something like importance of listening, constant self-learning, acknowledging the contribution of the community in their work, in the sense the work that is being done by the students, or maybe as a part of the research that they are doing during their field work. It's important that they acknowledge the partners, which is the community. And of course, now developing this digital literacy, they need to themselves be developing the digital literacy and also addressing the digital divide that we find in the community. So this gets to be important. And these are important skills, abilities that need to be developed by the students. And I feel that some of these skills that we impart to our students as a part of the 2-year program or 4 semesters also need to be imparted to the students of other disciplines to basically facilitate their effective working in the field. The department has established and continued till date with 2 field action programs, as I think the Ambedkar University has also started with that, as I just get to know. So we have 2 field action programs, and they have been there since long. They basically demonstrate, the whole idea of this field action program is to demonstrate the relevance of social work intervention in dealing with social issues and with social problems. So they have functioned as demonstration cum extension projects for the department and have enabled us to strengthen our learning practice engagements. So one such field action project is the Child Guidance Center, which started in 1971, and it has continued till date. And of course, subsequently, instead of the Child Guidance Center, the new nomenclature was Center for Child and Adolescent Well-being. The other field action project that we have was popularly called Gram Mahila Kendra, and we started this in Burari way back, I think, in the 1950s. Of course, it was strengthened in a major way in the 1980s. And subsequently, this center also came to be known as the Center for Community Development and Action, because somewhere I think some of us felt that this initiative, why do we call it Gram Mahila Kendra? But it is a community action and community development that should be the focus. So as a result, the name change of nomenclature. So over the many years of its existence, these centers have rendered exemplary community development service based on participatory community action. So it's not one way, but the community and other stakeholders who are in the community are engaged with us on a regular basis. So these extension cum demonstration projects of the department have explored a variety of ways to innovate, implement, research, and we have used it extensively for our academic purposes. The goals excuse me. Yeah. The goals of these 2 centers are multiple and far-reaching, and they have led to important outcomes based on the identification of the community needs, designing and implementing informal education and educational modules through community-based learning centers like the Balwadis that we have. Then we also have community-based initiatives for the participation of women and adolescent groups. Just to also make a mention that we ensure, since we're working with the community, we ensure that we celebrate important days with them. We've celebrated the International Women's Day, and that has become a regular feature with the community. And this has helped us to generate awareness of many aspects of gender rights of women, government programs and schemes, to just name a few. And also in togetherness with the local police Thana there, we have also initiated, try to have safe public surroundings for the women and girls. Also, we initiated the self-defense programs with the help of Delhi Police and celebration of important days, just to create an awareness of among the masses and instilling a feeling of pride and patriotism among them. To mention that the work has definitely been impacted due to the COVID. And since last 1.5 years, things have been going slightly slow. So maybe if I can just show some few pictures just for, sharing that the visual might give us an idea about the kind of work that we are doing here. Is it visible? Is it visible, please?
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So this is, we have the International Women's Day celebrated in Burari. And these are, of course, our faculty members are there, and of course, the community. We had a self-defense training program, which we held in the department, at the Department of Social Work. And we had this trainer who not only just gave them skills into the defense, but also put it across in the form of a theoretical construct so that it could be understood in togetherness in a holistic manner by these young girls who were part of the Burari village. And also I need to say that it was not very easy for us to get the girls, but then there were these 15 or 16 families who were enthusiastic enough with the whole concept that the girls move out of the village and also get to see the University of Delhi and learn some of these basic skills. So it all required a lot of rapport formation with them, because this doesn't come easy. So saying that, we had this self-defense in the department does not come easy till you have that rapport formation with the community and they start trusting you. So the point is that if you are doing engaging with the communities, a lot of basic work has to be done before you start getting the results. Then, of course, this is again a part of the self-defense program that we had. Of course, as I said, the University of Delhi promotes the departments in their initiatives. So we had the proctor who participated in the entire event. This is again one of the views of the International Women's Day, which was held in the Burari village. We also gave them, this was not only just events there, but we had painting competitions, we had other activities for the children, for the young girls and women to instill a feel of belongingness and involvement and the basic component, as I said, of participation. So this is one of the skits that they were doing for us. Yeah, so having said this, I'd like to just put across certain challenges that we are facing by way of continuing with the two projects. Some of the challenges that we have faced recently is pertaining to the number one, allocated budget, which has been reduced drastically by the university. The staff salaries have stopped, which has resulted in closure of some of the activities because one of the felt needs was teaching and tailoring. So that we had to stop because the salary of the teacher was stopped from the university. So while we have our sewing machines there, so we initiated a in-house program where maybe somebody from the department or maybe one of them from the community could start teaching them, those who knew that art. Then, of course, there's this entire selection criteria that has been introduced by way of skills tests, by way of a written test, and for the employment of the staff, which has to be deputed in these programs. And also their employment has been made time bound. So all of that has resulted in delays in their appointment, which has grossly affected the continuous interaction with the community, because the students who are placed in these programs go there on, as I said, a limited number of days, that's basically 2 days. So the point is that I think there has to be more of engagement of the universities by way of realization that we are working with human beings. We are dealing with human beings, and there is a scientific way to deal with human beings through these projects. It cannot be done random. So saying that after 2 years, if we are given a staff saying that now you may start your initiative, does not go too well with the spirit of the community engagement. And I think that needs to be understood, that needs to be realized by the university, that it requires a long effort, many years of effort to get the right kind of participation from their side and the outcome that we are wanting to. So in conclusion, I'll say that the future, when it comes to the future of public universities and this community university engagement, that as universities become more engaged with their outreach programs and with the communities that they serve, they would be also expected to gradually rethink on this entire proposal, redesign their curriculum, which gets to be very essential, because if you're wanting the participation of the students into the community, then what time do they go to? The entire curriculum has to be nurtured in that way, especially also keeping into consideration the new education policy. And if this is done with consciousness, with good intention, it's definitely going to have a positive impact on the campus culture also. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening to me so patiently.
Thank you very much, Professor Singla, for that really detailed, lecture within the broader framework of today's theme of importance of extension activities and community engagements for public university. And, kind of mapping us through the role of universities to the need for rethinking in our curriculum, in the way in which we would do community engagement in today's day and age for the future. I thought that that was a huge historical journey as well as an empirical journey that you covered. So thank you very much for that really detailed presentation. And one very, very important issue that you raised, which I think as we have been doing through our programs, but as we embark on this journey through the division, what we need to definitely remember are ethical considerations. We are dealing with human beings, human life, emotions, and that is something which needs to be at the heart of whatever we plan. And I thought that, reminding us of our responsibility as a university towards that was extremely valuable. I'm indeed very grateful, Professor Singla, for you having accepted this invitation today. You can be rest assured that I will get in touch with you more in future as the division, increases its activities. I also wanted to mention that the Vice Chancellor expressed her apologies that she had to leave in between your presentation. She had another meeting starting at 3 o'clock, and she's expressed her apologies for that. Thank you very much. We move to the next bit of our, program today. And here we have what we are kind of calling experiences and lessons learned from extension and community engagement by our own AUD students who are all alumnus at the moment. We have 3 students today. 2 of us are here in the conference hall, and Swarnima will join us through Zoom. So we'll begin with Niharika Sridhar. Niharika completed her undergraduation in history honors from Kamala Nehru College, Delhi University in 2016. She had a keen interest in heritage and Indian history, and that led her to pursue a postgraduate diploma in preventive conservation from Indira Gandhi National Center for the Arts, IGNCA, which was in collaboration with INTAC in 2017. And as a student there, she was actively involved in heritage restoration in different parts of the country. To broaden her learning, she joined the Masters in Urban Studies, which is a program that is offered from the School of Global Affairs of Ambedkar University, Delhi. So she joined it in 2018 and she's completed it in 2020. And over the years, she's interned with different organizations, Child Rights and You, the Ladakh Arts and Media Organization. And currently she's working as a project assistant in the Humanities Across Borders program at a center at AUD, which is the Center for Community Knowledge, something that we've been mentioning since the beginning of the program today, who's been playing a very, very active role in community engagement initiatives. We'll begin with Niharika.
Hello, everyone. A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you so much for having me here today, especially to Professor Rukmini and Professor Rohit Negi. When I was asked to speak at today's event about, how my course has enabled me to be involved in outreach activities, all I could think about was the 2 great years that I had at AUD as an urban studies student. Now, to give you an idea of about our course, it was understanding the various urban concerns and urban processes that a city goes through. And it was a continuous interaction between classroom and the field. And given the diverse educational background all the students in our program came from, we were actually encouraged to look at the city through different angles. Public policy, infrastructure, urban health, environmental issues, social relations, oral history, and so on. But when you think about it, you cannot understand a city without actually understanding its people, its neighborhood, and the communities. They form a very essential part of the social fabric. They make these cities. So very early on in our program, we were actually engaged in outreach activities through our field work and projects and assignments. We had educational field visits to 2 smart cities, Bhopal and Chandigarh, where we were working in small groups according to different urban themes, and we conducted field visits in different parts of the city. This practical experience was actually taken back at the end of the day to the classroom, where as peers and professors, we discussed it further. To understand theoretical concepts better with much more clarity, we also visited the areas within the city, Ghaziabad and Gurgaon. And through these activities, we learned team building exercises. Not only did we learn how to interact and coordinate better with our peers, but also engaging with communities as an individual researcher was done through our respective internships. I personally was interning with the Ladakh Arts and Media Organization Leh. And for a month and a half, I had a very thorough and long conversation with all the local people of Leh. And this was in regards to the water scarcity in the city. Now, all of these community engagement activities eventually led to 2 very big, enriching experiences we had as urban studies student. One was the studio, and the other one was obviously our dissertation. Now, the studio was a secondary-based learning experience that was integrated into our course. It was a semester-long intensive study of the area of Inderlok, which was very close to our campus of Karampura. It was spread over an entire semester, and we as students were working in different groups, and we spent a majority of our time visiting various sites of Inderlok, interacting with the various communities, and connecting it with urban and social theories. It was divided into 3 phases where we study the various urban concerns through themes like resettlement, environmental issues focusing on the Najafgarh drain, circulation in the Lok in terms of transport and commerce, weekly markets, urban commons, home-based women workers, and popular cultures amongst the youth of Inderlok. And the end day result was a 2-day community exhibition that we held in the neighborhood of Inderlok for the people of Inderlok. It was eventually for them. And of course, as a master's student, I think your ultimate test of whatever you've learned in 2 years is your dissertation. So those 6 months were absolutely cherishing as well. Now, through all of this, there was certain interactive, analytical, and practical skills that enabled us as students to be involved in outreach activities, to be able to connect with people, cultures, and communities. And how did we do that? These were through research methodologies like personalized interactions and field visits, which helped us in gaining expertise in modes of direct learning protocols. We visited and revisited our fields of study. We organized group discussions with locals, built appropriate questionnaires to conduct personal interviews, and eventually we formed a trustworthy relationship with the communities itself. Finally, this was analyzed in an organized manner and documented, presented, and disseminated in various ways. This certain integration helped us in bridging the gap between academic and practical application. Lastly, I think it is fair to say that the skills and knowledge that we sort of garnered in those 2 years resonate with the work me and my batchmates that we are doing currently. As Professor Rukmini told everyone, I'm currently working with the Center for Community Knowledge in Ambedkar University, where we engage with local histories, draw on community resources, and connect with wider community to academic imagination. This, in turn, is used to develop research and teaching programs and create interdisciplinary initiatives to engage with oral and community knowledge. My classmates also took their interests further and they sort of extended their study into work, and they're currently working in very interesting organizations like Synergy Sansthan, where they are working with a group of young tribal women with their overall development in the district of Harda, Bhopal. Then in the field of urban public health, they worked on a project related to Mohalla clinics in Delhi, and the funding was provided by Azim Premji University. In the field of urban environment, they are working with the Indraprastha Institute of Information Technology, Delhi, in measuring air quality index levels in urban neighborhoods like Najafgarh. As an independent project, a group of urban studies students started the initiative called SUI, Struggles of Urban India, to organize the power of people in most vulnerable spaces over the process of city building. In the field of urban design, they are working in a non-profit design firm called Humankind, which advocates for child-friendly neighborhoods in cities through design and community engagement. Its aim is to bring children at the center of decision-making table for their environments to become safe, equitable, and compassionate. And lastly, all the work that was done during our studio also culminated into a small documentary, which was done by our very own Urban Studies Studio students, that was showcased online during a 2-day event called All for Climate, Youth and Communities for Climate Change Challenges by the International Laboratory of Architecture and Urban Design. I'll stop here by saying that AUD's various community engagement and outreach activities have been eventually imbibed into our professional work, and I believe it will continue to do so. And I know for a fact that whoever's watching, that I speak on behalf of my entire batch, and they would happily agree with me. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Niharika, and that's so heartening to know your last few sentences. We'll move to Aditya. Aditya Goel, who is a founder and CEO of Quirky Byte Media, a successful media entertainment portal running and changing Hollywood media in India since 2015. You surely will hear more from me, Aditya, given that we've been asked today to do a media group. Yeah. He's passed out of the School of Business, Public Policy and Social Entrepreneurship of AUD in 2017. Since then, he has completed his MPhil in entrepreneurship from University of Cambridge, specializing in media psychology. He also co-founded Green Brew Green Coffee back in 2016 and continued there till 2019. He's been awarded with many titles like India's 35 under 35 in 2020 by Entrepreneur magazine, and his startups have won awards like Top 36 Startups in India by Times Now, FMCG Startup of the Year by National Business Awards, Best Digital Content Distributor by Talent Track. Aditya.
Thank you. Good afternoon to all who have joined, and thank you to Professor Rukmini and Professor Kritika Mathur for having me here. It's a privilege to share my thoughts on what AUD contributed to my development, and it's a privilege to speak at extension activities. So, let me be honest here. When I joined AUD, or the School of Business, Public Policy and Social Entrepreneurship, I was a bit skeptical. Very honestly, I didn't want to come here because I am more of a capitalist, and this is more of a socialist university, and I just believe in making money. But 2 years down the line, when I passed out in 2019, I realized that this place has changed me a lot. And it is one of the reasons that it helped me to reach the University of Cambridge. The ethical values and the social things which it imbibed in me have made a big difference today. I was just going through AUD's website today. The website has changed a lot now. And today I just, went through all the points that, it's written in the vision and the mission statement of AUD. They have written that, we promote excellence with equity and social justice, engage scholarship, valuing diversity, social responsibility, integrity and humility, commitment to human values, teamwork and collaboration, transparency and accountability. And, as a person who has been running a business for the past 6 years, these values are very important. We realize only money matters, the bottom line matters, but it doesn't matter. And thankfully to AUD and all the activities which we undertook here, it has changed me as a person and of course my classmates. Now, SBPPSC has been set up in AUD to promote research and provide professional education and training in the field of management, public policy, and social entrepreneurship. It was founded on a belief that there's a need to develop a holistic approach to business and profit within the larger context of the wider society and economy. And our Honorable Vice Chancellor also spoke about this, that it's not about, it's not just about doing this charity. And even Professor Singla also just, highlighted this aspect that they ran out of funding. I mean, it's very sad that they ran out of funding because they were doing such a great job. So, entrepreneurship as a whole agenda is, or a whole concept is such that it helps you to, sustain yourself in the longer run. Even if you do not have funds, you do not have to depend upon the funds from big business houses, because one day they will run out of profits and then they won't do the CSR activities. So why not, bring in a culture where we can help these societies develop themselves. We can reach out to them. We can create some businesses. We can create some, things where they can actually help themselves. So that should be the emphasis. And that is what AUD changed in me. That is what my school changed in me, because from the first year, I remember there was an activity, there was a particular course there which involved, interning with the NGOs. I did not take that course because, I did not want to go into HR, and it was undertaken by Professor Richa Avasti. But 7 people from my class who undertook that course, they shared such valuable insights at what they learned there. Some of them went to Gunj, some of them went to other NGOs, and they learned a lot from them. How we as management students can contribute to such NGOs. Because what happens is, once we run a charity or anything which contributes to the society, we run into management problems. We run into financial problems. We run into a lot of problems which are related to business graduates. And those things can be solved by business graduates, and what impact we can make as in the society as a whole. So, under Professor Valentina, we had this field visit where we visited Rudrapur and, Nainital, and we experienced the problems faced by people there. The problems faced by people in Rudrapur and how we can contribute and how we can change the landscape and what we learned from them. So, reaching out to people has always been an agenda or, let's say, an activity which has been done by AUD and the various schools of AUD. Like Niharika also pointed out, they have been doing this extensively, but a program like MBA or, which is doing this is actually changing the students within. I mean, when you go to a business, let's say when you do a business, you just don't think about profits anymore. You think about the larger impact it will create on the society. I mean, what are the decisions? The ethical dilemma has been one of the highlights of today's presentations, which have been, talked about by the Vice Chancellor, by Professor Singla. And I think ethical dilemmas have to be considered before taking any decision forward. So that is what is happening now. And during our course, we had this course called Innovation on Entrepreneurship. Now, in that, we were asked to develop a social entrepreneurship, venture. We had to, conceptualize it. We had to prepare a business canvas. We had to develop everything from the scratch and then present it to the larger community. So we used to organize exhibitions. We used to create different, let's say, stalls, or we used to create different things where we could, raise some funds by doing some social entrepreneurship ventures. Some of us, printed T-shirts. Some of us used to sell some samosas or some, tea. We used to do different things, and all the proceeds from it, we used to contribute towards the development of the security guards in AUD or the support staff in AUD or people in and around AUD. And that activity, It tells you about finance, it tells you about business, and it tells you about what you can do for the society in general on the whole, if our university interacts with people on a general level. It's a need of the hour that we as students, we connect with the community more, because community teaches us a lot. And even, if after the pandemic, which has changed each and every one of us after 2 years, we do not change completely, then I don't think that, the pandemic has taught us enough and we deserve to be even here. So, all the activities which we underwent in SBPP SCE's course. So, I'm very glad that I came here and not to a private university where I would have, they would have made me a better manager, maybe, a better, let's say, good at presentations, probably, a top-notch business guy, but they wouldn't have made me a person who cares about the society in general. Once you start caring about the society in general, that's when the impact comes in. When I was giving my interviews for the University of Cambridge, they actually asked me, just explain SBPP SCE, what is it? Then, once I started explaining it, then I realized that those 2 years of journey, that 30% activities which we used to do for the society in general, those activities which contributed to our character development, those activities which showed us that how privileged we are and how non-privileged people out there are in villages, in societies around us. Even if, I was studying at the KG campus, and even if we, walk out right now to the KG campus, just go 100 meters right or go 100 meters left, you'll see the difference between you and the people who do not have those, resources, those things which they need to excel in life. They have the talent, they just don't have the opportunities. And if we as students of AUD can, create those opportunities for them, it will not only help us, because if you are, if you're entrepreneurs, if you are managers, tomorrow you can change some certain lives. And that is the reason that these activities are very important. This division is very important. The reason why I feel that, these activities or the social activities, they do not get highlighted a lot is because they do not get enough attention. We as human beings, one of my researches into psychology is that we as human beings, we want the fame. We want that, that ability, that peak moment, that something gives us fame. And that is I just wanted to speak about it extensively. And the Honorable Vice Chancellor, she spoke about that, we need media attention. If some student or if some teacher or if some division is doing something larger for the society, it needs to get highlighted more. People need to be shown that, okay, this is also a way of life, and not only, getting 1 crore packages from Google or, building successful businesses or doing this is just enough. So that is what I think we should do. And as part of, I just remember one more thing, as part of, my venture, which I did for innovation and entrepreneurship, we started an online magazine for AUD, which used to cover all the AUD events. It was a proposal which we presented, but it did not go through. I hope now it can go through. So that is something. And, so I would like to end on a quote by the great B.R. Ambedkar, by the great Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Men are mortal, so are ideas. An idea needs propagation as much as a plant needs watering. Otherwise, both will wither and die. So the point is simple, that this idea which, Professor Rukmini has developed and she's undertaken, I think it should, be developed, and the impact should be not only felt within the Ambedkar University, but the students and the alumni who pass out, and we can, imbibe these values in other people, so that we can change the society as whole. Because, I will just say one thing in Hindi as well, because the same guy said, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, Zindagi badi honi chahiye, lambi nahi. So, Zindagi ko bada karne ke liye, to make a life great, we should, think about the society also at a large than our own pockets. Thank you. That's my word.
Thank you very much, Aditya. We move over to our last speaker today, Swarnima Kriti. You're here, Swarnima.
Yes, ma'am.
Great. Is for you to switch on your video, or you can't?
No, I have.
Okay, great. Swarnima is a fellow in action research and also an alumnus of the MPhil program in development practice, which is a program which is co-anchored by the School of Human Studies and the School of Development Studies here at AUD. She's working on questions of gender and indigeneity in developmental contexts in districts of Kanker and Dhamtari in Chhattisgarh. She works with a group of young Adivasi women who call themselves Chinhari, the Young India. I would request all of you to actually look into Chinhari's website, chinhari.co.in. Her papers include Deconstructing Theory Practice, Rethinking Methodology, which has been published in the Journal of International Women's Studies. And she has a forthcoming paper, which is part of a book project, which is titled Chinhari, the Young India, the Praxis of Feminizing Democracy. Thank you, Swarnima, for joining us today from Patna.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I think to metaphorically represent community engagement and learning to live in the village was like becoming amphibian, becoming an organism that lives between land and water, between cities and villages, between urban and rural, also between elite and subaltern worlds. The process of preparation for our 1-year immersion in the largely Adivasi villages of central India started during our pre-MPhil orientation program in Kesla, Madhya Pradesh. During the orientation program itself, we were sent to the nearby villages for 3 consecutive days. Further, as part of our coursework, we touched upon 4 important genres that helped me continue to engage with people, cultures, and communities even after my MPhil. First, courses like philosophy of development practice, understanding the rural, researching the rural, equality, discrimination, marginalization in rural contexts, politics, resistance, transformation in the rural, and gender and development helped me develop a critical, analytical, reflective relationship with the dominant discourses and practices of community engagement. They led me to mark my movement from mere implementation to action research. They helped me to make sense of developmental theory and practice in their mutual implications. Philosophy of development practice took me to a thicker and disaggregated understanding of the community. It unsettled the dominant framework that village communities are only backward, primitive, superstitious, and underdeveloped. This became extremely important during our 1-year immersion and the process of living with an Adivasi family in the village. Researching the rural, on the other hand, taught us how to process information as reflection. An important exercise I learned was journal writing. Such courses helped us with new tools of epistemology. We cooked with the women in our host family, as also ate with them after the men had finished eating. We went to the jungle to collect firewood and non-timber forest produce. We also experienced what was it to be part of an SHG, a women's collective. We also took care of the young in the household during busy seasons of sowing, weeding, and harvesting. In a word, we were not just researching the community, we were immersed in the everyday life world of the community. We were also learning to learn from below. We were learning to learn from Adivasi worldviews. Second, courses like experiencing the self, relating with others, and listening, learning, communicating helped me learn to listen and engage empathetically with the village. I think the psychoanalytic turn that this course gave me brought me much closer to how I could understand the community. How could I understand the people in the community? It reminds me of one of the times I slept next to the women of the household to listen to their pain as also to share mine. I was not simply an observer in those moments, but an active participant, which I would say strengthened and deepened my engagement with the community. Third, it was important to learn how to work in community contexts, as also how to relate with groups. The experience of learning groups, courses such as participatory rural appraisal, grassroots engagement methodology, the theater workshop, the theater of the oppressed, integrated natural resource management in rural contexts, gave us a technical know-how to engage with the community. We also learned to engage with not just individuals, but group contexts. PRA activities like social mapping, 100 seeds, etc., helped us understand the village better. In fact, Theatre of Oppressed was one of the activities taken up by the Adivasi Young Women's Collective in the village I was working in to present the problem of sexual division of labor. Fourth, our community engagement was layered with social impact. We learned how to impact institutions like family, rural community, self-help groups, state, panchayats, and gram sabhas. Our exposure to institutions like Pradhan, Vasudha, Priya, Living Farms, etc., gave us a new perspective to think about social impact. Lastly, I would say the MPhil development practice introduced me to a network of post-MPhil development practice action researchers doing a similar kind of work. Our seniors, Bhavya Chitranshi and Ashutosh Kumar's work with a single women's collective called Eka Nari Sangathan in village Imaliguda, Odisha, has been a constant source of inspiration. Neeraj Kapoor's work on indigenous rice cultivation and Gautam Bishop's work on alternative education has also been a motivation. Inspired by such learnings of community engagement, I co-created a youth platform called Chinhari the Young India. Since 2016, the collective and I have been engaging with experiences, life worlds, and worldviews of young-born women in rural community contexts. It is a collective of largely young Adivasi women aged 9 to 27 years. The immersive community engagement of almost 1 year enabled this action research work to move from a simple infrastructural problem of pani ke samasya, the problem of water scarcity, to loosely put it, to pani lane ki samasya, the problem of women fetching water, a gendered problem in the lives of young women. If I would not have stayed in the village, engaged with women's labor processes, learned the Chhattisgarhi language, I would not have perhaps been able to understand the so-called problem of water scarcity had actually veiled the experiences of women fetching water for 3 to 4 hours each day. In the last few years, Chinhari has collectively worked on questions like ensuring young Adivasi women's health and nutrition through indigenous vegetable and rice cultivation, awareness of changes in young women's bodies during menstruation, childbirth, etc. Hands-on practical learning through forms of indigenous open learning centers, also indigenous lac cultivation as livelihood generation, as also part of the rejuvenation of one's relationship with Jal Jangal Zameen. Adivasi young women's writing and paintings have also been explored in the process, and they have been understood as forms of creative expression. We have also published newsletters, quarterly newsletters, and I would say this move was not inspired by simply the perspective of giving voice to the gendered subaltern. It rather made an effort to create space for women's writing in Adivasi contexts, having carried the Spivakian caution of Can the Subaltern Speak. This incremental work, I think, was only possible because this community engagement was not limited by a pre-booked return ticket to the metros or abroad. This work was only possible because of a 6-year-long immersive engagement with the community. This work has truly tried to reflect on the idea of outreach, as it rigorously reached out to the community. I am very grateful to Ambedkar University, Delhi for having given me this opportunity that transformed me and perhaps the lives of the community of young Adivasi women as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Swarnima, for that. And I can't not be nostalgic and remember my times with Bhavya and Ashutosh at their villages in Orissa and Gumla. And And actually, in some ways, you know, while trying to bring this all together as we end today's launch, one understands that AUD in different ways through its schools, programs, centers, divisions have been reaching out to the community. Engaged praxis actually remained a part of our vision statement since the inception. One would hope that with new directions coming and with support and collaboration with everybody within the university as well as outside of it, this division will continue and consolidate that engagement with people, cultures, and communities and citizens in order to generate constitutional ethos, talk about constitutional moralities, and reiterate the importance of participation, compassion, and dignity towards all through its different programs and activities. I am extremely grateful to everyone today who have participated in this event. Immensely thankful to Professor Singla for being here from the beginning to the end of the event. Thank you very much, ma'am, for being here. I want to express my gratitude to the Vice Chancellor, Professor Lather, to Registrar, Dr. Malik, to all faculty members who have joined today online, to students who are here, and I know that there are current students here and alumni also here, and you know, both as speakers as well as listeners. And through this division, I would definitely reach out to alumni more and more. There is also an alumni portal that AUD has, you know, recently created. So I do look forward to interacting with alumni more. To all deans, directors, and heads of divisions who are here today, or some of whom have told me reasons for their unavailability today, to the university PRO, to the members of the Office of the Vice Chancellor, to the IT staff. Dineshji has been here throughout, Director IT, and all other IT staff, without whom, you know, in a post-pandemic world, the university wouldn't have been functioning. And also to library, our deputy librarians who have been here in the program. I thank everyone who has been part of this. We look forward to all your cooperation and support as we embark on this journey. Thank you very much. Professor Singla, can I have one moment with you, and maybe we could do photos for Nima also, and everybody else who is there, we'll go that side. And, you know, if somebody could, yeah. But if I do on video. Thank you, everyone, and see you later. Bye.